Hi there folks, my name's NovaWing24 and welcome to another little review of an FSX Steam Edition product. So today we're going to be having a look at the Piper Aztec, and this is produced by the wonderful guys over at Aeroplane Heaven. Before we get started though, I do want to say thank you very much to the wonderful guys over at Dovetail Games for supplying me with the review copy of this aircraft. So we're going to be exploring today, and we're going to be exploring it in a short little hop through New Zealand. So we picked an appropriate registration for that one today, a New Zealand registration. Anyway, so this is the Piper Aztec. So this was, funny enough, Piper's first twin aircraft, twin engine aircraft that they ever produced. Interestingly enough, and we'll go a bit more into the history of it once we're in the air. But yeah, so this is from the team over at Aeroplane Heaven. Now, Aeroplane Heaven, they've been around for a long time, and they've been primarily they do work for other companies. They don't release a lot under their own brand name. So this is one of the few exceptions to that where they do release under their own brand name. And overall, we're going to, as I said, as you can see, we're having a look at the external sort of model and textures before we jump in and get started. Now, the external textures look, they're not bad, but they're nothing to write home about either. They just seem really it's too clean, I think, is probably the best way to put it. It's too clean, it's too sanitized. There's sort of like a not enough of the sort of wear and tear that you see on it. You know, there's little bits like that you see like down on the nose step sort of, oh well, sorry, not on the nose step, on the step area and stuff like that. There's some there, but the rest of the airframe just seems to be too bright for itself. You know, it just doesn't, it doesn't quite gel. But overall, the external model though is quite nice and very much in line with the real aircraft, which is always a good start. And you know, it's, as I said, the texturing is nothing. It's not bad. But you know, I've seen better as well. So there you go. And but yeah, it's looking overall not a bad little model. There we go, not too bad. We've got plenty of the cargo hatches, and by the way, that rear one actually isn't just so much a cargo hatch. It's actually like an emergency exit or alternate sort of way in, which is a rather interesting thing to know. But there you go. Anyway, so now that we've had a look through that, let's jump into the office and let's take it on a short little charter flight. So, all right, here we are in the office. Now, it's very much a steam-driven office. Now, I'll just close the door there. There we are. Complete with the seat animation, when sort of, because you do have to move the seat to be able to get to access to the rear seats. It's rather cramped back there, that's for sure. All right, so the Aztec was produced from the 1950s up until 1981, so it saw a sort of a long service life. Now, this particular model does have a GPS, though it's Aeroplane Heaven do nicely, very nicely, do give you an option to remove it and make the classic gauges, as it were. You can jump down here. Actually, we'll just jump down now. What you can do is, if you go down under here, there's a couple of click points that allow you to actually hide the original gauges. So one of the ones that we're going to use, here, we're just going to use this one. So what that does is that removes the GPS unit, and also one of the more modern autopilot unit get removed when you remove the modern gauges. Now the autopilot in this one is an Ultimatic 3B1. So this is very much a very basic autopilot, not as basic as the Sperry autopilot, which is in like the DC3. But you know, it's still a fairly basic one. It doesn't have a lot of, you know, sort of whiz bang stuff on it. But you know, it's still an autopilot, which is, you know, good to have. But as I said, it's a fairly basic one. It really is. Anyway, all right. But while we will be using it on a course, so what are we going to be using? We're not going to be using the nav. We're going to be using our heading. So I'll preset that on the heading. Alright, so first things first, let's get ourselves started, and then we'll have a look at all these things in detail a little bit further. Alright, so first steps first, let's open up the fuel. Fuel on. Alright, switch our batteries on. Get our rotating beacon on. Alright, now we'll get our magnetos for the left engine. Yeah, the engines start there. Excellent. Recenter that one. Alright, and we'll get the magnetos for engine 2. Engine start. Now it's a tri-position switch. So left click to go left and right click to go right. Now we've got both our needles up on the RPM gauge, so we're all running correctly. Excellent. So now we can start putting all our other lights on. Yeah, it's a bit chilly down here in New Zealand, so we're going to put our pitot heat on. You can see, so we're all started up there, engines running nice and smoothly. Got our cow flaps open. We're there with myself and the co-pilots and myself are all there ready to go. Probably one thing that's missing from the model here is that the propeller pitch doesn't actually change. So I did test this before recording the video. The propeller pitch doesn't actually change on the 3D model when you change it in the cockpit, which is a bit of a shame, really. But anyway, otherwise, still not too shabby so far. All right, well let's take her out for a spin and head up to Palmerston. Well, we're at Palmerston North at the moment. We're going to be heading up to Wairau. Alrighty. So parking brake off. One of the interesting things about the Aztec is the aerofoil is very, very efficient, and it's designed to operate it can sort of operate down to reasonably slow speeds. But one of the interesting things is that according to the pilot's handbook is that and doing a bit of research online, you don't actually use any flaps on takeoff. It's actually very aerodynamic, and looks like we've got at least one piece of modern technology we've got to turn off. Thank you, Russ. Right, so we're here. Alright, let's taxi out now. As I said, no flaps needed for departure.
On runway 25, flaps, flaps.
Russ thinks I need flaps, but actually no, I don't. Alright, now this I should have done this before we taxied out, but let's quickly set up a couple of things here ready for our autopilot. So heading wise, we're going to be heading out on about 340. And set, and then for altitude we're going to go up to about we're going to go 6,000 feet for this run today. Alright, now that that's all set, now we can head up and take off. That's the throttles, brakes off. Got a crosswind here on our departure today. Yep, she just pretty much just wants to climb into the air all by itself, which is really nice. Alright, okay. Now that we're on our climb out, let's set our autopilot. So our automatic 3B. First thing we need to do, of course, we need to engage it, push on, heading, which we set just before, and our altimeter as well. Oh, sorry, not altimeter, our altitude hold. Alright, so we've preset our altitude, heading up to 6,000 feet, and we're heading out on 340. Well, while we're in the climb, let's go have a look at the exterior model again, and have a look now that we're all airborne and cleaned up. Let's have a look at it. So you can sort of see from here what the beginnings of the designs that would one day turn into the Seneca and other very famous Piper aircraft. You can sort of already see the lines and the beginnings of it already here in the Aztec. Interesting enough, the Aztec was originally known as the Apache because the Aztec was actually originally designed by Convair, or by Stinson, who was owned by Convair. But Piper inherited the design when they bought the Stinson business arm from Convair. In the 50s, so it's kind of an interesting sort of history with that one, and it definitely looks. You can, as I said before, you can see the early lines of what would later become the Seneca and other Piper twins in the fact of how they work and how they're designed in that sort of like teardrop shape, which is still very aerodynamic, but also just very recognizable and very elegant. External wise, in terms of animations and stuff like that, we've got a couple on there. It's got a basic one for the cowl flaps, so they're currently open. Should be right to close them now. So you can see it's a very basic small animation, but you know it's there, so at least they paid attention to that, which is quite nice. Overall, very nice looking aeroplane. As I said, it would have been nice to have it a bit more scuffed and weathered, but yeah, it still looks. It definitely still looks the part. That's for sure. All right, while we're climbing there, we've had a look at our outside. Let's go back and have a look at the office. Alrighty, so here we are in the office here. What I might do is I might switch the modern radios on, so we can see them today. So we'll unhide those. All right. So it's a fairly simple, basic cockpit. So this is designed as sort of like a light, sort of light commuter type aircraft, and sort of for your business and your weekend warrior sort of crowds who are looking for something that's fun, but still exciting and still has the ability to sort of transport passengers, as well as sort of just chilling back and enjoying the old $100 hamburger. So of course we've got a very quite a nicely detailed main sort of flight instruments here. The one thing that was very interesting though is the airspeed in the ASI, the airspeed indicator here. So it's got an older sort of style where it's not only does it include indicated airspeed on the inside here. On the outside it's got miles per hour, and then over here it's got a true airspeed indicator, and it does involve calculating the outside temperature and your pressure and all the rest of it to actually give you a true airspeed, or what many of us know actually as a ground speed. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's an interesting thing. It's not adjustable, by the way. It automatically adjusts itself based on FSX temperature data and all the rest of it. But no, it's nice to see that it's in there, even if it's not interactive. It's sort of dictated by the sim, but at least it's in there, which is kind of cool. So the basic gauges here, and then moving on in the center here. So the center here is sort of the the radio stack and the avionics. So the GPS unit and the sort of basic autopilot unit, they are not They are not part of the standard radios. They're the modernized ones. Essentially, this is just a rework of the GPS 500 that's built into FSX, but still, with a few extra things here. Looks like I might need to change my course to a little bit to get me back onto course. It should be about right. So visually it's quite nice. Now there is one thing I have a problem though, and that's with the on-off of all the avionics. Now for whatever reason, Aeroplane Heaven decided that they do not want you to be able to use the scroll wheel on this. So if you actually want to be able to access or even turn on any of the radios and all the rest of it, because they do start all turned off. If you want to be able to turn them on, you actually have to click and drag left or right. So left for off, right for on. To enable you to actually bring these avionics systems online. So it's very frustrating, and I think it's a poor thought where they've got a scrolling sort of rolling thing, but except you can't use your mouse wheel to actually be able to do the scrolling and the changing. So that's a bit of an oversight, I think. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but yeah, it's a little odd and a little disturbing, the fact that that's not there. So yeah, anyway. Otherwise, it's just your basic ones. So you got your basic comm, nav radios, your ADF, and as I said, just a basic modernized autopilot system down the bottom there, rounding it out on the normal panel, on the modernized panel. Then, of course, you've got all your engine temperature and manifold gauges over on the passenger / or shotgun, or the alternate pilot. It's all there. Yeah, it's not too bad. The big thing I find with this particular aircraft, and this is something I know of Aeroplane Heaven in other scenarios as well. Aeroplane Heaven, what they'll often do is they'll often pick a type, and they'll do a representative one which sort of covers you across multiple aircraft types, and it ends up being ends up being good, but sometimes a bit odd. And this Aztec is no exception. It is primarily based on the D, but its performance specs are closer to the E model actually, which is a bit odd. But still, the layout is all basically the same. It still looks nice, and it still flies quite well as well, and quite efficient, and it feels like it should do. From reading about flights in the Aztec versus what I'm experiencing the sim, you know what, I find them pretty much spot on. So happy to say this one's a good find. As I said, the issue I have is just it's a small thing, but yeah, not being able to use your scroll wheel to be able to turn your radios on and off, and having to click, hold, and drag, that's a little odd and a little confusing. But yeah, anyway. Otherwise, interior modelling is quite nice. It definitely has, as we saw before, the animation of when you close the door and moves the seat forward. So overall, not too shabby when it comes to graphics. This, by the way, is a Steam exclusive. So Aeroplane Heaven normally sell their stuff either through, as I said earlier, through other developers where they've been acting as prime contractor for, or otherwise they do sell it through their website as well. But this one is exclusively to Steam Edition. So yeah, it's interesting having FSX Steam have its own exclusives. Because normally that's real. That's sort of like private stuff that costs money normally, but yeah, no, nice to see the exclusivity here, and a maintained exclusivity, unlike the Orbix products where it was just a simple, you get a lead time in Steam only, and then you got to go, then you can get it from anywhere. So, the aircraft overall sort of seems to handle exactly as you would expect. It's as I said, the vintage Autopilot does have its quirks that you have to work out, but overall, I think this is a quite well modelled version of the Aztec, and I think it looks quite nice, and overall seems to perform pretty much within the performance envelope that I could actually see online. So, yeah, well done to Aeroplane Heaven for that one. I was a bit dubious first because it can, for some reason, be a little bit heavy on frames every now and again, but overall, I think you guys have done a reasonably good job. It would be nice if the paintwork was a little bit more scuffed, but otherwise, yeah, it's not a bad deal, this one, especially for the price. Less than $20 for this one will give you hours of fun mucking around in a twin piston engine aircraft. Well, now that we've up to our cruise altitude and I've waffled on sufficiently for a while, I waffle a lot, but it's good waffle, I like to think. So now that we're sort of fully established and we've gone through a lot of the minor details and stuff of the aircraft and its history, let's look into what we do is we might break the flight here and we will rejoin it as we come in on final. One of the things I definitely have to commend Aeroplane Heaven on here is the sound set that they use for the Allison engines. It is absolutely incredible. It is spot on. You get the change of the murmur, and it responds beautifully when you can hear the changes in pitch, and as you adjust the mixtures and everything else, it's really quite spot on. Very, very nicely done, I think. So yeah, definitely very much have to say spot on for that one. Now we're coming into our airport here. We'll overfly and then we'll do a right pattern. So we're going to be in a bit of a low visibility approach, this one, I think.
Flaps.
I'm not landing yet, Ras. I'm still entering the pattern. Alright, we've got our runway down there. Looks like our winds are coming from the north, so we'll execute our crossover midfield.
Flaps.
Just start the turn there, start bleeding off a little bit of the airspeed. Nice big power lines here in New Zealand. Going to be always a caution for aviators. Continue our teardrop approach there. Make sure we stay above the power lines. We're in sight. Bring the gear down. The gear has a reassuring clunk to it as it comes down as well, which is always nice. Oh, definitely went way too wide on that base leg. We'll go around, shall we? Gear back up. Let's do that again, shall we? Yeah, as the old saying goes, do not in aviation you learn never be afraid to go around. It's great to hear. As I said, you can hear the engine pitch change, you know, as you sort of put the power on and adjust the RPMs. So yeah, I think this is definitely something that they've done very well on in the as part of this model. Not only is the modeling quite good, but as I said, the sound set and the immersion is quite nice. Now I alluded before about the fact that you know, Aeroplane Heaven often do sort of like a conglomeration of models when they do their aircraft, and this one's no different. Although it's based on the D, the physical sort of layout is more like the G model, and they've grabbed the engines from the G as well. So yeah, it's they definitely sort of they combine it, but they sort of do the best parts of each one, and give you like an average experience from all of it. So it's I think overall it's a good compromise between a full realism versus, you know, accessibility. And I find this one very accessible, and quite easy to get a hang of, with the controls and the way it handles and the way it flies. So yeah, I'm reasonably impressed by it, and I think it makes it makes a great little twin engine light tourer. If you are looking at something a little bit different from maybe your Barons or something like that, you want to do something a little bit different. This one's not going to be a bad one for you to have a look at. Come in, bit of a long landing, a flare. And down. Crosswind was a bit annoying there for a second. There we go. So I mean, yeah, it's the only sort of real model type bugbear I've got is the fact that the propellers don't change pitch when you change them in the cockpit. They don't. That's not reflected on the model. That's a bit frustrating, but beyond
on runway,
that,
13 flaps.
yes, I'm back taxing on the runway, bitching Betty. Thank you. So yeah, as I say, the only real sort of grumble I have model wise is for the external model is the fact that, you know, the propeller pitch doesn't change when you actually change it in the cockpit. And the other one is the decision to use a pull, like a click and drag, for the avionics instead of actually enabling you to use your scroll wheel. I find that a really odd choice. Like, I don't think there's a mouse made anymore that doesn't have a scroll wheel. So I find that a really odd decision to make, to not allow you to use the scroll wheel. And it does sort of feel things, because, you know, when you're turning a knob, you're the equivalent of that in computers is scrolling the scroll wheel. So I think that's a bit of an odd, but, you know, it's a pretty small thing to sort of complain about, I think. So yeah, overall I can't really find too many faults with it other than that. The sound set is incredible.
Remaining.
The sound set is just absolutely incredible. Texturing could do a little bit, maybe a bit of grubbying up, but otherwise, no, a pretty good overall light twin engine tourer that'll keep you entertained, especially if you enjoy sort of, you know, your low and slow flying and looking for something a little bit different to go touring in. This is going to be not a bad little option for you. Very comfortable at high and low altitudes as well. So yeah, a nice little aircraft, this one. We'll just pull up here at the edge of the tarmac. There we go. And all shut down. The other thing that's kind of cool as well is that, okay, it may not seem like much, but the position that the propellers stop in is random. It is not defined. It is not guaranteed where it'll stop in, which is a nice, again, one of those nice little features that, you know, you don't always see, but is kind of cool anyway, just in case. So, overall, I think that this is a excellent little purchase. It's a great little purchase. It's a great little aircraft. It makes for a wonderful little tourer. It's very easy to fly. It's very forgiving. Is it absolutely 100% accurate? No, but you know what? It's still quite good. It's still quite good. So and very easy and comfortable and very easy and easy to pick up and really gives you that sort of sense of flying in a small GA aircraft. My only bugbears, the not getting to seeing the variable pitch actually come through on the model, the lack of being able to use your scroll wheel for the avionics, and the other one is just the manual is a bit, not that you need a lot of detail, but the manual is a bit light on its subject matter. But overall, it's a very comfortable, easy to fly aircraft. One that's going to be very forgiving, and I think gives you a really enjoyable experience flying in GA. So yeah, there you go. Alright folks, well that wraps up my little review for Aeroplane Heaven's Piper Aztec, which is now available exclusive on Steam. I do want to say thank you very much to the wonderful guys over at Dovetail Games for providing me with the review copy of this beautiful little piston twin. And as always folks, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos and want to see more. And of course, as always, you can catch up with me and all the things I'm up to between videos by finding me on Facebook and on Twitter. Just search NovaWing24. Alright folks, thanks very much for watching. Take care, safe skies to all, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.